Hello everyone, it's Aisha here, and I hope everyone is fine. Here I have my blue bear with me, and that's the reason why I'm not using a virtual background because I wanted him to be with me in the video since he has accompanied me in every meeting since COVID time. So, anyways, I'm making this video especially for the teachers. I want to share with all the teachers now. The teachers could be new teachers, or the teachers could be working in schools, let's say in different schools in different curriculums, or maybe there could be many teachers who don't have experience in American or British curriculum. So all different teachers would be able to find some helpful tips from this video. But the focus of this video is me trying to share one really effective idea to engage kids from the very beginning of the lesson. Okay, and if you make it like a routine of your lessons, they will be engaged in every lesson that you will be you will be conducting. So during the COVID time, even before the COVID time, there was a certain there was some kind of time where we had a lot of memes trending anywhere you would go in social media, on, let's say, Facebook, or even on Google or Instagram. Anywhere you would go, and you would find memes trending everywhere. There would be memes about anything and everything, about all celebrities, about any breaking news, even, or even any official government figures. Any news comes in, and there is suddenly there is a meme generated about it. So memes were so in trend. So that time, like during COVID time, I also started seeing a lot of memes everywhere, and then a thought came to me. I started thinking about this thing, that how engaging memes are. They're so engaging, and they don't just engage you just visually, but also it gives you it gives you a chance to read and then to think. So I thought maybe I can use memes in my lessons to engage kids more into the lesson. Okay, and they will find it fun, they will find it more engaging, it will be more interesting, and there will be moments where they could have fun, where they could laugh a bit. Even it would give me chance to relate with them, you know. So I started using memes. So the point is that I'm not sharing it, and it's a disclaimer here that I'm not sharing it because I saw someone using memes. No, I'm not sharing it because I read some article about it online that using memes can help kids to study. No, it's purely my own, it's genuine idea. It's an authentic idea that I came up with because I genuinely wanted my kids, my students, to find the lessons interesting and engaging enough. So that's why I made memes like a routine of, like a part of our routine in every lesson. So they knew, they were more, each time it was our ELA lesson, they would be, curious, waiting for the lesson to start to see what memes are there going to be in the lesson, what memes we will have. And those memes also help them to make connections, because young students, young minds, they unconsciously make connections. You show them something and they practice something, they made connection with it. Okay, so memes are a really good way to engage your kids. And if you are interested in seeing how you can use uh, specific meme in a specific lesson, what kind of lesson could it be, and what kind of meme you can use. So I'll show you five different examples of five different lessons targeting five different major skills. And yeah, there will be sub skills that we practice with kids to, of course, practice those same major skills. But remember, the examples that I'm sharing right now, I'm going to share, it's more of the style of lessons that we have when we are teaching in American curriculum. There is an organization of lessons, and it's because we really have to teach according to the standard. If you have experience in American curriculum, you will understand this thing, that we really, really have to decode the standard and teach the standard and keep on coming back to the standard until it's fully covered and the skill that it's targeting is fully mastered by the kids. Okay, so that's how these lessons are. There is a standard, there is a major skill, which is actually the main topic of the lesson, and then there is a sub skill that we are practicing to reinforce that skill. So the very first example that I'm going to share with you in all of these five lessons is the vocabulary lesson. Okay, so here I'm going to share screen and let's look at the vocabulary lesson within a second here. All right. So now see the very first slide of the lesson. And again, the work that I'm sharing, the material that I'm sharing is all made by me. Okay. And this idea of using memes is purely genuinely my own idea. If it wasn't my idea, I wouldn't have shared it and I wouldn't have talked about it. So I'm trying to say this again. So it would be very clear that it's shared because I made it and I thought of this idea. So the very first slide here says at the top meme of the day. And by writing here meme of the day, I'm actually making kids to understand this thing that they should be expecting new meme each day. In each new lesson they would be, they when they get into this habit of seeing a meme daily, meme of the day, so they will be expecting daily from me meme of the day, which also puts me in the habit that daily I have to look for a new meme, which is also related to the major skill that I'm teaching and also engages my kids well and effectively into the lesson. So here you can see meme of the day. When people think that Dubai is a country, while Dubai is a city in the UAE, so before even reading, the visual itself is so engaging. Now just imagine if this was not the visual and it was just the text. Would it be engaging enough? No, it wouldn't be engaging at all. But just because of the visual, it's a funny visual. The girl is a bit shocked at something, and the whole thing looks so funny. Okay, and so that's why even as adults, it's this visual is able to engage us, and we find it a bit funny, and then we want to read what's going on. So imagine the kind of engagement you will have from your kids in your classes, even young, especially young kids and even a bit older kids. Imagine the kind of engagement they will have when you use memes with them. They really want to know why the teacher is using this meme. Oh, the teacher has used this meme of funny things. Oh, funny things are the ones we find interesting. Oh, teacher is also using it. So it's also a chance for you to make connection with them because it lets them to relate with you because you are using something that is engaging for them, that's interesting for them. So that's how I used the meme to open the lesson. That's the first step because you need to engage them first. You need to engage them first. Later you can move on. Once you have engaged them, then you can move on to the other steps in the 5 E's that we have: explaining and elaborating. Okay, and evaluating. So later and expressing all of these stages, you can cover those stages very effectively if you have first engaged them well, right? So this meme, if you pay close attention to this meme is also about UAE. So as teachers working in UAE, you know this thing that this is an important factor, this is an important element in the lesson that we really have to cover in every lesson that we teach. It should be related in some shape or form. You have to make some form of connection to UAE. It could be a connection to the cultural values of UAE, to the multicultural society that it supports here, to the geography of UAE, to the moral values of UAE, like or different things, or the traditions or the heritage. Like there should be some form of connection, and as teacher, it's your job to find some way to connect your lesson to UAE or UAE identity. So this means it's about UAE. So you already fulfilled that requirement. You already connected the lesson to UAE. So the school where I was working, okay, we already in the task time, we were all supposed to give the last task to the kids as a UAE task. So there also they would be working on UAE task, and um, it already the lesson already gets connected even to the task as well. But if you also have it in a PowerPoint where you are using a meme and you already connected it to UAE, so you fulfilled that requirement also. So it's when you are trying to add things to your lesson, make them beneficial to the learning of the kids. Don't just add it just to cover some time, or just to pass some time, or just to make your lesson look like wow. No, you are not looking for you don't have to think or work in a teacher centered way. You have to think about how the things are going to benefit your kids, how what you are giving them, what you are teaching them is benefiting their learning and their improvement. If you just think about yourself, well, it's going to make my lesson look good, or it's going to bring that wow factor in my lesson, just because if I will use these visuals, or if I will use tough work or tough text or tough things, it will make my teaching look very professional. No, that's very teacher centered kind of thinking. You're only thinking about yourself. You have to think in a student centered way, where you're constantly thinking what's benefiting the learning of my students, what is it that will help them to improve from the level where they are to the level where they need to be at their grade level. So when I'm using this meme, I have all of these concerns in my mind. I really want them to not just look at the visual, get engaged, and have a chance, like a quick chance to read the text. I'm also targeting their reading skill here. They will be reading, and just because they want to understand what's actually going on with the girl, they will read the text. They will read the text, and then they starts their comprehension, it starts their thinking skills. So they a lot of skills get exercised within few seconds. So it's a really good way to engage and exercise all of those skills. You wouldn't even have to ask them to read it. You wouldn't even have to ask them, okay, start thinking. When you really have to tell them, think. Sometimes when we are doing think pair share, we have sometimes teachers have to keep on telling them think, okay, no. When we really have to tell them to think, that's no thinking. That's no thinking. The good thinking is the one that happens naturally, where they see something and they're engaged and they start thinking unconsciously. They don't even know, but they start thinking. You don't have to tell them. So use engaging material. Memes are so engaging. They will make your kids think, read, think, comprehend. So you can also take use this as opportunity to have give them a question. What do you think is the difference between country and city? These two are the major words here. And since the lesson is vocabulary, so through your questions you connect it to vocabulary lesson. If directly it doesn't look like it's a vocabulary meme, but you through your questions, because remember your questions are the ones that direct the lesson. You ask your questions in such a way that your lesson is directed in a right direction. That's how you make your kids think in the right way, by asking right questions, and making them think critically through your questions. Here also one more thing I'll mention is that sometimes in the lessons we are like, okay, let me think of 4 questions for critical thinking. You write questions, yes, that's a good practice. Have them written down in your lesson plan, but don't you know think of it as, oh, a separate set of questions. Okay, we can use these 4 questions for critical thinking. No, critical thinking is not a 1 minute time activity or a 2 minute time activity. It's a continuous activity that has to keep on happening in the minds of your students through the questions that you keep asking them while teaching the lesson. Now, what do you think could be the difference between the country and the city? Why can't we call country or a city? Why do you think could be the reason? Your your questions, the ones that have to ignite or make them critically think, come from within the question, come from within the flow of the lesson, not a separate set of questions that are totally irrelevant to the lesson. Okay, so that's the meme. Now here I talked about many different things as well, because many points are coming to my mind, but this is the first lesson sample that I'm sharing with you. And this vocabulary lesson was targeting actually two skills. One is the skill of figuring out meanings, and the other is the skill of identifying suffixes in words. So here, there we had to practice two identifying two different suffixes, e and us. So in this meme, you can see country and city. So they already got this sound here, and you can even make a question: which sound is the same in both country, in both words, country and city? And they'll tell you e. Miss, the last sound e is the same. Okay. So when we have the word rainy, what's the root word there? They might tell you rain. And then what's the suffix there? E. Okay, so let's practice the words that have suffixes e and us. So through your questions, you make them connect well to the lesson. If you are asking the right questions, you will be able to direct them better with your questions. So that's the meme that I used in vocabulary, but I didn't use more than one memes. I might use this one meme in the in opening, where I'm trying to engage them in my warm up, let's say. But then I might use one more meme in a plenary question. But then again, I won't be showing that meme to them on the board. Okay, look at the board, and here we will do. No, I'll give it to them. I'll give it to them. They will look at it in their Google Classroom and answer the question in Google Classroom. Since vocabulary lesson, I always felt it needed more teaching time. So the lesser the slides, the better. The more the slides, the more you will have to cover all of that material, the more you will be talking. Teacher talking time will increase the more your slides are. Okay, that's also one of the reasons why our teacher talking time increases, because we have so many slides that we, of course, we have to keep on moving on to the slides, and we have to keep on stopping and talking about them. So make sure that you are not exceeding that 10 minutes of teacher talking time. Okay, it's called teacher talking time because that's the time when you stand in the front and the kids are supposed to keep looking at you and keep listening to you. Okay, and yeah, you do ask them questions while teaching as well, but that's a time where they're not engaged, or they are not working on the task that they need to think uh, about themselves on their own, independently, reading independently, thinking independently, solving, sometimes through collabing with their peers. So that's the time when they don't have to look at you. Okay, so but the first 10 minutes of the lesson is the time where they are supposed to sit and look at you and answer to direct questions that you are asking, or asking them to let's say figure out something that you're showing them on the projector, on the screen. So make sure you keep your slides minimum, or the lesser as possible as you can, not to in order for you to not exceed that time. In vocabulary lesson, I always struggled with this thing, because in vocabulary you have to show all words and different examples of how that word is used, and how many suffixes, how many different words have the same suffix, and different sentences where they have to read and figure out, practicing, modeling and practicing figuring out meanings of the words. So it always did take more time as compared to other lessons. So keep your slides as few as possible. Now we will go to the second example of the lesson. The first one was vocabulary, where the major skill that we are covering is vocabulary. And of course, we are teaching suffixes because there is a standard that was telling you to teach suffixes, and there is a standard that's telling you to teach context clues. So those standards are targeting these two skills. Now let's move on to the second lesson, which is comprehension lesson. So of course, again, a major skill, comprehension. That's the topic of the lesson. So in comprehension, again, I opened the lesson with this funny meme. Run! We dare you. And we can see here this is police department building, and we can see these are police vehicles, police cars of UAE. So I guess Dubai maybe, but it's UAE. So again, it's connected to UAE. It's connected to how safety and how strong laws are in UAE, that any time, like it's giving your students and kids also a chance to even visualize in their mind and think in their mind that yeah, we really do have this level of safety in our life. And again, in our life means real life connection. So you don't have to keep on making separate slides for, oh, real life connection, I'll make a separate slide. Connecting to UAE values, separate slide. The more slides you have, the more you will actually exceed the 10 minutes time. After 10 minutes, you are not supposed to keep standing there and forcing them to look at the board. After 10 minutes, they are supposed to go and get engaged into the task that they have, into the task where they have to read and think and apply that skill that they practiced with you and see how they can, how they can produce something out of that skill. So this needs a lot of time. This needs time. So which means you need to keep your teacher talking time limited to 10 minutes. So let them have the rest of the time to work where you then move. You will not stop teaching, but you will move around in groups to give them short, quick teaching. First, you'll start with the groups that need the most support, which is what you will identify, and you'll make them sit separate. So you can go quickly and you can sit with them to support them. Then you can have your round through all of their groups, but come back again to the group that needs most support. So, anyways, coming back to this example of a funny meme that I use in a comprehension lesson, it's letting your kids visualize, it's letting your kids also, have a quick opportunity to read. So, I realized this thing when I started using memes is that the kids got into a habit of trying to read so they could understand what's funny in the meme. So the readers, some of the readers that you really have, because that time the kids that I had, they didn't struggle with reading. The only kids who were struggling in reading in my classes at that time were the ones who were new to the curriculum, or let's say new admission. The ones who were already in the curriculum, they didn't struggle with reading at all, because the right reading, strategies, when they are applied at the right time, as soon as kids they progress from KG to, okay, they don't struggle with basic reading, then they become more fluent as they move on to the bigger grades. So these memes are a really good opportunity to engage even your struggling readers. That's the point. So memes will help you in many different ways. So this is the meme that I used with them, and it will also, as soon as they read, they also practice their comprehension skill, because they will be comprehending this thing that, oh, run, we dare you, means anywhere you commit a crime or you do something, you can't run anywhere. We will be there and we'll catch you. So this is the meme, and let's see if I used any other lesson. So this was the only meme, and I opened my lesson with this meme. It got connected with their real life. So real life connection. It's about UA. You connected it with UA. You covered that factor. You targeted that thing that's required from you in your lesson. Now let's look at the third example. The third day three lesson was, it used to be our poetry lesson. So let's look at the poetry lesson. And poetry again is when you are reading something that's written as a poem, and you will read and comprehend it. So again, you are using comprehension skill, but the lesson is more focused on reading and doing your comprehension through the poems. Okay, but here, let's look at this meme. So I opened my poetry lesson and I mentioned at the top, funny poem meme of the day. So they know that they have to comprehend this meme, in that context of poetry poem. So as soon as they look at this funny picture of Donald Trump, you can't even imagine how engaged the kids were as soon as they saw this picture. And all of the kids will be more engaged because they will relate to you. They will show understanding towards you even more when they see or they unconsciously get this message from you that I understand what you like. I understand what you are more interested in, and this is what I'm giving you. So unconsciously they will relate, they will connect with you. Okay, you are showing them something funny, and you are letting them have their fun, quick little laugh. So they read this. I can't wait for the debate. Hey, that rhymes. So as soon as they read it, they know, okay, we are going to be reading poems. We will find out where the words that are rhyming with each other. I'm the greatest poet. Everybody says so. So now they will also understand that we will be working like poets also when we will be creating, let's say, and then we might create a poem, or we might write some lines as poem, and we might write some sentences that are not like a poem. uh, so in this lesson, I also wanted them to apply the skill that they practiced in comprehension lesson in day two with me. So I made it like a bit more challenging for them when I asked them to compare and contrast as well. Compare and contrast between the poem and the prose. Don't just work with the poem, but I want you to work with the prose as well. I modeled it with them by showing them this example of a popcorn monster. So I found this poem online, and I wrote this text. I made my own. I myself I wrote this text about the popcorn monster, but the poem is from Google. So I wanted them to have the same subject in both prose and in the poem, but to be written for it to be written in two different ways. So I modeled with them. I practiced it with them, and then I wanted them to apply that same skill that they practiced with me in their task. So this lesson in a way is practicing two skills. Okay. So in their pre-assessment question, which is the first question where you are actually judging how much they know, how much they already know about what I'm going to teach them, and can they actually explain it? Can how much they can tell me about it, and that will let you know how to direct your lesson. For example, the question here is poetry exactly the same as prose? And I gave them a meme with it. I didn't give the meme on a separate slide and then covering it separately. No, try to save your time by keeping your slides, as pure as possible. So roses are red. My name is not Dave. This makes no sense. Microwave, miss. Dave and microwave, they're rhyming, miss. And also the visual is so engaging. So just because of the funny visual, they will really want to read what it says and want to understand. Oh, these two words sound the same. Oh, so the ones who didn't know or the ones who somehow couldn't practice well in the previous lesson would now make connection. Oh, these two words are rhyming. These are how rhyming words are. Just because they got engaged in it. Okay. So is poetry exactly the same as prose? So now if the whole class is answering it very well, you don't have to take your time to explain them on this slide. For example, I know on this slide when I go, I don't have to explain them the difference between poetry and prose. Why? Because in the pre-assessment question, they answer it perfectly. But let's say if one to two students couldn't answer it well, I might explain it here, but I wouldn't go that deep. But in the working time, I would go to that students group, the ones who need support, and I will teach them at that time. But while the teaching time, the 10 minutes of the time, I won't take a lot of time explaining the difference between these two, but actually to be reading it and discussing what it actually means. Okay, what's the difference between this kind of writing and that, like how it's written differently here and how it's written differently there, or what's the subject of both the texts? Why do they look different? One looks bigger, one looks smaller. So I would be asking them questions more instead of me explaining them because they answered very well in pre-assessment questions. So now my way of teaching will be more questioning and less me talking, less me giving information, but more taking information out of them, and their answers in a way will also help the ones who struggle to answer this question. The answers of other students will be helpful to the ones who struggled to answer this one. So this is the meme that I used, and let's see if I ended my lesson with any meme. Yes, so I ended the lesson again with plenary. Plenary is the last question which everyone knows. All the teachers by now, all the teachers know that plenary is the very last question that again you give to your kids, which again is a way of It's almost a way of self-reflection. It's almost a way of self-assessment, not just for your students, but also for your own self. You will be able to better self-assess your own teaching, your own way of conducting the lesson, your own way of the strategies, the things that you used in your PowerPoint, in your lesson, the tasks that you gave them to work on. If they are effectively if correctly answering the question, your the way you planned your lesson and you conducted your lesson, it was effective because they answered it very well. Okay, so yeah, it really worked. So I really need to now, in the next poetry lesson, I need to focus on a different skill, or I need to focus on a totally different subject because they mastered this one, they understand now what's the difference. Maybe I can target some other skill in the in the next poetry lesson. So it lets you know about your own teaching, how effective it was, and what you need to do in the next lesson. And also, it's a way for your students to self reflect and self assess their own understanding, their own learning. How? When you give them this question, they have to answer it independently, right? So the moment they start struggling with the question, the moment they start, having a bit of difficulty understanding how to answer the question, it's like it's a form of self-awareness for themselves. And struggled to answer this question. I had difficulty in this question. They might even ask you, teacher, I'm finding it difficult to answer the question. I don't understand. So it's like they are getting self-aware, this self-awareness about their own ability. And that's when they will be at a point, they will be mentally at a point where they will accept the feedback you will give them. They will accept, you know and take all the support that you provide to them, in, let's say, in the differentiated groups that you place them in. They will accept that when they are more self-aware of their own ability. And these questions are the best ways to make them self-aware about their own ability. A very point, actually, as new teachers, we might not realize this, but this is very important because once we don't, once we ignore this fact about self-awareness, self-reflection, kids will not know. They will have no idea about their ability. And once they are totally unaware of their ability, or of what things they lack in and what things they really need to improve in, and what are the things that happen in the classroom where they really actually experience struggle. Like, some people might think of it as a negative thing. Oh, the kid is struggling. Oh, means the teacher didn't teach well. No, it's not. Don't look at it as a negative thing. Struggle is the way to actually move towards learning. All of us struggle. All of us struggle when we are learning. There is no good learning where there is no struggle. If there is struggle, there will be good learning. So make it a really good habit to give them these questions in the beginning as well, at the end as well. And the best way to do it is when you really do it in a way when evidences are created right away. So wherever I was teaching, the students, and even in the school where I was teaching during the COVID time, the beginning, when the COVID actually started. So we had to give our quizzes and our questions in Google Classroom, which means right away we had the evidence right away. And the kids had to perform there, go and perform there. And if they are struggling, they will experience that struggle. And if they are not struggling, right away they are able to answer the question very well. They know, okay, I have mastered this, I understand this very well, that's why I was able to answer this. So I need to be focusing on another skill. Maybe I need to focus more on writing because last time I couldn't write well. Last time I couldn't create paragraphs in my writing. Last time I couldn't think of many different ideas when I was writing. So maybe I need to focus more on writing. So it also lets them know what they need to focus on. And that's also one of the things that the map tests, the real international, benchmark test, map measure of academic progress. Those tests, when those tests are conducted, at the end, what do we do? We let each kid know which skill they have to focus on through the reports that they receive. That's why they receive individual reports, so they can actually see the skills where they need improvement. So in your lessons also, when you are practicing skills with your kids, with each lesson, they need to self-reflect and they need to know through these, quiz time, these answering questions time, whether they were able to do it well or not. Did they really struggle with it? Okay, if I'm struggling with it, I really need to practice. I really need to take more support from teacher. I really need to, use some simplified materials or simplified tasks. I really need to use simplified tasks for me to practice better, to improve in this specific task or in this specific skill the teacher is teaching me. So that's the thing here. Now, this is the third lesson. We saw the example of vocabulary lesson and the meme that I used in vocabulary lesson. Then we saw comprehension lesson and the meme I used in comprehension lesson. Now, this is poetry lesson that we are looking at right now. And with the plenary, I also added the memes within Google Classroom. Whenever we would give a question in Google Classroom, I made this a habit. I made this a habit to attach a meme as a thumbnail in that same question, in that same short quiz question, in plenary question or in pre-assessment question. I would keep attaching memes in them. So they would be more engaged and they would answer the questions with better thinking. Okay. Now this meme is visually very engaging because there is a baby that's showing that sign of, that you can see some bravery in him, that yes, I can do it. That moment when you realize you really love poetry. And yeah, that's actually the fact. In all of my different lessons, poetry is the lesson that kids always used to say, the teacher, we really enjoy poetry lesson. Teacher, it's piece of cake. We get it, very well. It's so easy for us. And by easy, I don't actually mean that it's easy, but they get it quick. Any skill that I'm teaching, they get it quick because they find poems interesting. It's like a song for them. When they're reading, they're not bored reading. And this was also the thing in poetry lessons. They didn't have long texts to read as they have in other lessons. In vocabulary, in comprehension lesson, even in grammar lesson, they have the whole text to keep on hot reading, to keep on reading again and again. But in poem, they can just read it, let's say, even if 2 to 3 times, but it would be just one day. So it's not, they don't have to hot read it, the same text again and again, right? But in other lessons, they would be reading the same text again and again and hot reading it. But yeah, of course, each time it has a different skill. But kids, they used to say that we like the poetry lesson just because of this thing that we get to read something new. So this is the third lesson example. Now let's look at the fourth lesson example, which we have right after poetry is grammar. So look, now I engaged them at the very first minute, at the very first second of the lesson. As soon as I'm opening with a meme. It's almost like the start of the lesson where they're engaged well, they're looking at Johnny Depp, they're looking at the crying boy, they're engaged, they want to find out what's happening, what's wrong with the boy, and they're reading. They see there are three sentences and they're reading. They want to read to understand what's the problem with the boy. Why are you crying? It's summer, so I live in Dubai. Summer, it's hot. Their mind is making connections. Summer, it's hot in Dubai. Yes, we experience it. We also go through it, real life connection. Dubai, connection to UAE. So connections can be made in many different ways. I'm not saying that meme is the only way through which you can make connection, but if you try to make connections by each slide different, every like everything that you need to cover in the lesson, okay, different slide. I want to connect to UAE, different slide. I want to connect to real life, different slide. It will increase a lot. It will have, by the end you will have so many slides, and of course your teacher talking time, instead of 10 minutes, teacher teaching, standing and teaching, having their attention on you, having them, making them to look at the board again and again. That time, instead of 10 minutes, it will be increased to 30, 40 minutes, right? So try to keep your slides as few as possible. So in the same slide, you can see real life connection is also made, because through discussion, the connection really will happen also in their minds. It's happening, and also through discussion, because you will discuss with them. Yeah, don't you feel this? In summers, how hot it is. Yeah, don't you feel? So they will tell you, yes, miss, we can't even go outside. We can't even go outdoor anywhere. Even when we want to go and play, one of the kids was like, we want to go and play more football outside. We want to go to the football clubs, but it's so hot and we can't go outside. So they automatically start thinking about their real life. That's how natural connections are made, when you don't force them to make connections, but they naturally make it in their mind, and then you have a discussion with them. That's also helping them to make even stronger connection. So while I gave them this meme, my focus also was to, make them to connect the same lesson with the previous lesson, because in the previous grammar lesson, the skill was to identify different kinds of sentences. So we did different kinds of we practiced figuring identifying different kinds of sentences in the text. So in this meme, we already have sentences. Look, the sentence with the question. So they you would ask them, okay, do you see there are sentences? How many are there? Yes, yes, there are three. Are all of these sentences the same? No, miss, they are not same, because one has a question mark, two have question mark, two are asked as question, one is written as an answer. So you see, you don't have to tell them, you ask them, and the knowledge will come out of them. Like you generate the knowledge, you don't give the knowledge. You bring it out of them by asking them the right questions. So in this meme, we have two kinds of sentences: interrogative and declarative. So, why do you think the first two cannot be declarative? They also have some kind of information. No, miss, because the you can see the word why, and you can also see question mark. And the second one doesn't have why, but it has question mark. So, miss, we can't say it's declarative. And even if they can't tell you these answers, then it will be a chance for you to quickly, have a quick review. Because here my goal was, I didn't want them to forget that we practice sentences, because the skill right now in this new lesson is identifying different types of verbs. But where will the verbs be? In the sentences. So I don't want them to forget that skill of identifying different types of sentences, because see, why are you crying? Crying is a verb here, but it's in a sentence. So do you know what kind of sentence it is? Do you remember what we practiced? If you don't, let's review. Let's do a quick review. Okay, then we move on to the main thing that we have to practice, or the main skill we will be practicing. Then I showed them different sentences. I gave them sentence about Cristiano Ronaldo, one sentence about me, one about their mom, one about themselves. So I didn't. Whenever I would give the kids, something samples, or like model sentences or model examples, I would do my best to relate it to them personally by using Cristiano Ronaldo. All of them love Cristiano Ronaldo. They will be, as soon as I say his name, and they are engaged. They are even further engaged. So the first step of the lesson is engagement, yes, but then you don't totally forget that you need to still keep on engaging them through the things that you are using in your PowerPoint, through the things that you are using, let's say visuals or model sentences or model examples or model text or anything that you are using. Try your best. I know it's not always possible, but try your best that you relate it to them. So here I use my name. Okay, Miss Aisha taught us verbs today, which was happening right then and there in the lesson. My mother cooked meat yesterday. Okay, my mother also cooked something. What was that? I added my friends to my WhatsApp. Yeah, yes, yes, I also do this. And in those times, kids used to do it a lot. In those times, in COVID times, when n- kids were not on even TikTok at that time. They had these other channels of connecting. They used to play games together online. They used to add each other on WhatsApp groups a lot, a lot. And I found out about this because they would add me to their WhatsApp. That's how I found out that they make groups on WhatsApp, and that's why I made a sentence about it. So all all will be naturally connected when you try to relate everything to them. So then moving on, I showed them this meme about Spartans. So here, our Spartan is in action with the sword. As soon as they see this visual, they are super engaged. What is he doing? Why is he screaming? Oh, he's fighting, he's in action. Oh, so verbs are action. So they are quickly reminded about this thing. What are action verbs? I'm giving them this pre-assessment question because I know that I don't want to teach it. So I want to know if they can answer it well. If they can answer it well, then yeah, I can skip teaching it. I won't teach what exactly action verbs are. I will just teach them different types of verbs, but I won't teach them what are verbs if all of them have answered it well. But if they couldn't answer what are action words, even if they couldn't take the help from the meme where they can see him in action, they couldn't. It's not actually possible that they couldn't use it, but let's say in case they couldn't use these clues well, because in the meme, of course, I'm giving them a clue here that he's in action. That's a verb. Okay, what are action verbs? Action verbs are like verbs where fighting, screaming, jumping. So their mind will make connections through whatever you'll give them, you show them. So that's why I use this meme here. I want their mind to think well, and then answer. And that's where I will know. Yes, they know it. Yes, they know it. They figured it out. I don't have to teach words. I can just simply go and directly teach different kinds of words. So let's see if I use any other meme. Yes, towards the end of the lesson, I closed again with a question, again a plenary question, which is again assessment, again a good way of self-assessment for the kids and for you as well, and a way to self-reflect how well both of you performed in your tasks or in your job, you as a teacher and them as students, how well they learned what you were teaching and how well you taught what you were supposed to teach. So here the question is, I guess the animal is a squirrel, I guess, yeah. So it's the visual itself is engaging. They see the squirrel is already in action in the air. That is even more funny for the kids. It's even more funny. So on top of, and the best thing about memes is that the same meme can have different kinds of texts available. If you check on Google, the same meme will not be just one meme, but the same picture will be used in many different memes. So verb is what you do. What's the squirrel doing? Jumping, or trying to maybe reach somewhere, trying to catch something. So plenary meme. I even started calling these questions as pre-assessment meme, plenary meme. So kids got into a habit. They knew that in every ELA lesson there is a meme coming. There's a meme that they will get to see. They will get to read. They will get to have that funny moment. Your when your lesson is starting with something that's engaging and ending again with something that will make your kids think and perform better, nothing else is better than that, really. So this question here is write one sentence with a helping and a main verb. So that was actually the lesson about I had to teach them this. But I would always, because it's verbs, so if I'm teaching them helping and main verb, they can only do this if they first know what's verb. That's why my pre-assessment question was, what's an action verb? That's where I would know, yeah, they have good understanding of verb. I can just skip and go to teaching just helping and main verb. But if they couldn't answer that pre-assessment well, I would teach them first what's the action verb and then help them to differentiate between the helping and the main verb. So this is the fourth lesson example that we're looking at, where I showed you exactly what kind of meme I used. And before we move on to the last and the fifth lesson, uh, trying to search for the specific and the accurate memes that target the skill, the major skill that you are practicing. Like if you're teaching the skill of, the major skill of grammar, then searching for that, the sub skill that you are teaching. For example, here I had to help them, help them differentiate between helping and main verb. So to find the exact mean in grammar related to verb or doing your searching, it will require a lot of time. So there's one tip that I'll give you here is that uh, as many lessons as you have, let's say I had to teach them five major skills each week. So I made five folders in my computer. I made five folders. and I saved as many memes as I could find online related to the skills in ELA, related to vocabulary, related to comprehension, related to grammar. I found all the memes and I saved them at one time, and I saved them with names. So later, whenever I'm making the lesson, I could go and pick the meme from the saved where I saved them. And alternatively, you can also, when you are planning your lesson, you can also keep searching on Google. Even that, even if it would take time, but no problem. Your lesson will be more engaging. It will help your students to, learn better, be more engaged in the lesson, feel like part of the lesson, feel like they have like a say in it. They have a chance to have a little bit of fun in the lesson. Okay, so if you if you really think that it's a good idea, then I would suggest that start using memes in the beginning. Don't if you feel like it's taking a lot of searching time, use it, let's say, once a week or in one lesson per week. And later you will have enough, material saved with you, and then you can apply in all the lessons. So let's now move on to our last lesson example, which is writing. In writing, when you're teaching in American and British or British curriculum, even in other curriculums, the standards will guide you about the writings, and there are different types of writings that we practice. But why do we practice those writings is because the standards are asking us to practice. Like there is a standard, there will be standards that will ask you to practice descriptive writing. There will be a standard that will ask you to practice argumentative writing. Okay, so you look towards your standards to teach, especially if you are in American or British curriculum, you will have to teach the standard. So if a standard is asking you to cover the skill of descriptive writing with your kids, okay, the other standard will ask you, let's say, to help them to practice or use more adjectives and more descriptive details in the descriptive writing. So you are actually covering standards. And when I was teaching my kids, I used to cover the standards of descriptive writing, and even I guess at that time we were all told to first practice descriptive writing, and later on I understood that it's actually helpful. Even in the school before, when I was not in American curriculum, I used to practice descriptive writing a lot with kids because it's a good way to help them to look at something, and then they are practicing their skill of observing and observation skills, and then describing what they see. It's a really good way to help the kids to start writing, because if they didn't practice enough observation of something and then describing it and then putting it down on in the sentence, if they haven't practiced this enough in their earlier years, in their formative years, they will always struggle with writing. That observation and visualization, their thinking has to be activated through this kind of writing, through descriptive writing. And then comes narrative. As soon as they have, like you will take a set of weeks to practice descriptive writing with them to really mm, push them to start writing. So once they start describing different things, they start describing different foods, they start describing everything that they see, and they understand we have to use adjectives because in the first start will be this describing. Then in as the lessons progress, you will challenge them to use more adjectives, to use more descriptive details. Okay, and then you will keep on changing the things that they have to observe. Sometimes you might ask them to observe objects, sometimes you might ask them to observe animals, and you will show them a pattern, how to write. You will model it for them. And that's where they get their enough writing practice, and that's how they then start writing. They face less struggle with writing once they have effectively practice descriptive writing and then narrative writing. So I showed them this flag of UAE, which is my effort again to connect it to that same element that we are supposed to have in our lesson, connection with UAE. Okay, so here we have a very good connection with UAE. We have descriptive writing. We are describing. Here we will describe flag of UAE, and you will just ask them. They will look at it. They will start describing. And they know right away while they're describing, they know the lesson is all about descriptions. We will have to see and describe and see and describe. Oh, okay, so that's our lesson. Then moving on, I gave them pre-assessment question in their Google Classroom. Of course, we had to work in a way where we are actually giving them things in Google Classroom, and it's also helping us to keep a track of how they are performing throughout each of the lesson, and the evidences are collected right away. And they are also becoming self-aware through their performance, through the grades that they're getting on these questions, or the feedback that you are giving them on these questions. So what kind of details do we use in descriptive writing? The meme attached along with it in Google Classroom. Frankly, darling, your writing is boring without descriptive details. Oh, so if we don't have descriptive details, our writing will be boring. Okay, what kind of details do we use in descriptive writing? We need to use descriptive details, miss, descriptive details. And some of them would also tell you we have to also use adjectives, miss. The ones who will be high performers, or the ones who don't need you to teach them what are adjectives and how to use them. Of course they will tell you, because they practiced it in the previous lesson, and they practiced it so well that they remember that we need to use adjectives, and they will let you know. So after this one, do I have any other meme that I used? Yes. So I closed the same lesson with the plenary question, last question of the lesson again, where there is a chance for self-reflection, having good self-awareness of our own capabilities as a teacher as well, as a student as well. So what is the main thing that descriptive writing does? Yes, writing is frustrating. Deal with it. The visual of this baby itself is so engaging. Even you can, even they will be describing, oh, miss, the baby with the brown hair. Miss, the baby with the funny eyes. One eye is bigger, one is, I remember one kid told me, teacher, one eye is bigger, one is smaller. Miss, the baby is looking in a funny way. So they will be naturally they will be describing, because the whole lesson was pushing them to describe, use adjectives, use descriptive details, describe the color of anything that you see, describe its color, describe its shape, describe its form, describe how it looks like, how it talks like, how it feels like. So once they answer this question, you know how successful you were as a teacher in teaching that lesson. And in the next lesson, what you still need to focus on? Okay, let's say they all answered the question, but they didn't mention any adjective. Okay, so in the next lesson, I have to then focus more on the use of adjectives in the writing, and I have to model it more. So it lets you know your next step, and it lets you know where they are right now, and it lets them know, hmm, we are struggling to answer this question. We really need support from teacher. We really need a bit of more simplified task. We need to, they will actually mentally accept your feedback. Any feedback that you are giving them, they won't be like, oh, why this feedback is given to me? I don't deserve this, or why I'm being placed in this group? I don't deserve this, because there would be no self-awareness. That's why they will be in this kind of thinking. They will be thinking like this. But if they have good self-awareness, through good self-reflection, attempting these questions independently and going through that thinking time and then struggling or maybe not struggling, so it builds a form of self-awareness in them, and it lets them mentally to accept the feedback that you will give them, to accept the support that you will give them, and to accept that, yeah, I did make struggle with this. Yeah, I did give the answer that was not satisfactory. That did I did get like 1 out of 5 on this question. So yeah, I'm supposed to get help. I'm supposed to take this feedback, and I'm supposed to take support from teacher and practice it even further. But the ones who really perfectly answered this question, they know we did it really well. And teacher is saying that we have used a lot of adjectives as well. We have given examples of adjectives in our answer. So maybe next time, maybe I can write a sentence to let the teacher know how the descriptive detail looks like in a sentence, because they answered it very well. So of course they will be thinking of next best thing that I can do to make it even better. Or maybe I can focus on a different skill. Maybe the intro of my writing, teacher did say that intro is not that engaging. So maybe I can improve my the way I write my intro. So they will know exactly what they need to focus on next. Okay. So this is the last example of the lesson, and I tried my best. Even though I talked about many different things throughout the video, but I tried my best to show you what memes I used and in which lessons I used those memes. So I'm going to stop sharing screen, and I hope that this video would be helpful to all the teachers out there who would take their time to see this video and who are really, interested in this idea of using memes to teach. And one more time, I didn't share this because I saw someone doing it, or I didn't share this because just somehow I read about it on Google. No, it was, I genuinely thought of this idea because I was finding a lot of memes online. So I thought of making lessons more engaging just by using memes. And within few days, I realized how beneficial it was and what a good decision it was on my part to start using memes in my lessons. It engaged my students. It let them have quick reading, exercise their reading skill. It let them observe, observation skill. Then when you observe, of course, you will then visualize as well, and their comprehension skill as they read. Then they, of course, they would start. Their mind would start understanding. So all these different skills also get practiced, get exercised. The skill actually becomes a skill when it gets practiced a lot of times. If we do something only one time, it's not a skill. Even if we do it well, it's still not a skill because we didn't practice it enough times for it to become a tangible, a tangible, a strong skill within us. We might do it perfectly that one time, but we still cannot say that, oh, we mastered it, oh, it's our skill. No, it has to practice a lot of times and reinforce a lot of times. So these memes are a really good way of letting your kids exercise, like doing quick exercises, quick, by looking at these memes because they are not just pictorial, but they have texts as well. Okay, they will be reading, thinking, and it serves really well if you use these means effectively in your lesson. So I hope this video would be helpful to all the teachers out there. And thank you so much if you have watched the video till the end.